Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show where we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. My next guest is actually one of my idols. He's one of hip-hop's most prominent voices, and his historic bars have made him a Hall of Famer. He's a pioneer, an icon, and one of the founding members of the historic group Public Enemy. He recently teamed up with the MLB to become their music ambassador and content architect, and he narrated a new audio docudrama series about the rise of hip-hop called Can You Dig It?, which is also available to listen to right now. It is my honor to welcome the incredible Chuck D to the Renaissance Man podcast. Good day, my brother.
How you doing, man? Good to talk to you, YG legend.
No doubt. I appreciate the love. And I know that you've been busy. I got a chance to see you at Martha's Vineyard. The docu-series that you have out right now called Fight the Power, it's had me mesmerized. I done watched each episode like 2 or 3 times, and I can't wait to get into that. But I want to talk to you about your beginnings. You were 13 years old when hip-hop was born. Tell me about when you were first exposed to this music and what your life was like during that time.
I come from the New York area, New York metropolitan area, born in Queens, parents from Harlem, both of them. And when I came up in Queens, moving to Long Island at 9. So I'm a Long Islander because Quiet has kept Brooklyn and Queens all Long Island geographically. So I claim that and I own that. I wanted to be a sportscaster, Jalen. I wanted to be like Marv Albert. Matter of fact, I think I was going to be a Stuart Scott before the great Stuart Scott.
Wow.
I mean, I have baseball, basketball, football statistics all in me, man. I wanted to become a player, but I was first to admit that I sucked. No matter what I wanted, second baseman for the Mets or a point guard for the Knicks or whatever. You got to know your calling. And I knew that when I went down to the parks, I had a loud voice, so I used to bark it out, you know what I'm saying? Before hearing like all those cats on the sidelines of the Rucker, you know, I was like, well, I could be heard, you know? But that was my first call. And so when I seen hip hop come along in 1973 as a baseball fan, you know, that was the You Gotta Believe New York Mets coming from last place, the last New York Knicks championship year. You know, you know, I can't really speak on football because my team, the Jets, had won in 69. So I wanted to become a sportscaster. And I think Marv Albert was a key figure, as well as the baseball announcers, as well as, you know, Black journalists like Art Russ Jr., who did sports talk back in the 70s, man, you know. And I wanted to be that. But when hip hop came along, you know, music was all in our background. Everybody has some music in their background. Music was a part of every Black person's life. There was always somebody musical in it. If it wasn't church, it was the 45. There was the AM radio stations. It was the way they brought it across on the radio. So that was a natural thing. And, you know, and I got, you know, grandparents on that side in Detroit, you know, so music was just like you talk about streaming, Jay, music was always streaming with us. You know what I'm saying? 1973 comes along. I was like, okay. I was interested in the technical aspect of hip hop and rap music. That wowed me. I mean, there was always bands that you knew and people knew instruments, but the fact that somebody could play a record and manipulate it and then do what Muhammad Ali did over it, that fascinated me. So that's when the hip hop bug bit me really when I was 16, 1976. My brother used to come in the room with it. I used to kick him out, you know, that type of thing, share the room. But he was my introduction, along with my sister, into hip hop, 1976. So, yeah, it's been a long,
crazy. And also, you just reminded me of something. Like, New York was the epicenter not only of sports, but creating hip hop. The Jets had just won the championship with Joe Namath and wearing his fur coat. The Knicks had a couple of championships, and then hip hop was born. So for you at that point of your life, like, when did you write your first lyrics?
I actually wrote my first lyrics trying to mimic the tapes that were going around in 1978. So I was kind of writing off something that already was in the air. So like I grew up as an art student. You know what I'm saying? 1960, I was born
Indeed.
in the art, graphics, painting, illustrators, comic books, paintings, sculpture. I think that was in my family blood. So that was automatic for me. So every year, Jalen, I used to win the art contest in every year of school to the point was like, and I was cocky with it too. I was like, y'all can't get me. So I never, back in the day, they used to give the art contest and the poetry contest. But since I was hands down on the art contest, I never wrote a poem. I was like, I ain't got that. I'm already going to take home a prize. It's crazy. I remember one time, me and Griff, Professor Griff, were in the 4th grade together, and I think I joined the class late, coming from Queens, and we had to do a map of the United States. And I think our teacher, Miss Taylor, right, was like, "You got 3 days to do it," because everybody else had 2 weeks. It was the map of the United States, and I think Griff was in the lead, and I came in and did a map. And I kind of copped it. Griff was salty in 4th grade. They wanted to jump me or something. But that's how cocky I was with the arts thing. So yeah, but I never wrote a poem until I was 20-something years old, and that was only because of hip hop. Yeah,
and also the beauty of your excellence is that you're truly versatile. Like, just think about your journey. You love sports. You talked about being a sportscaster. You're an iconic artist. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're a great artist, and you can draw. And can you just talk about like the melting pot of your interests? Because a lot of people don't realize how many different things that you actually dabble into that excite you.
Well, Jalen, it's all the same side of the brain, I think. I'm an artistic person. I'm not a businessman like rappers would say, and I'm not, but I think back in the day, the difference in those generations, you knew what you wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I did out of 10 things, I'm gonna hone in on 4. I'm gonna leave the other 6 alone.
Right.
Today, a young cat will be like, I do all 10, man. But so we learned back in the day, be a master of 1 or 2. Instead of a half-ass jacket trade. So I think, I do books artistically. I also write about rap music and hip hop. I'm a historian buff. I do music, but they all along the same lines. It's not like if somebody asks me and all of a sudden I'm going to talk about aeronautics or scuba diving, I'm like, I don't know that, man. So I think that the mission is that you go to the pro to get the pro. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you go to the pro for what you don't know, and I'm very clear about that. I know what I'm honed at. I know what I'm trained at. And I sit in the fan seats of other people's scholarship. This is why I say in your profession, and this, Jalen, as a professional athlete and then a professional, area of coaching and training young people in athletics and then speaking about it. And then that permeates into a social speak, so to speak. You've done scholarship.
Yep.
The whole thing about, scholarship is that scholarship can't be microwaved and nor shall it be forsaken. Scholarship earned blood, sweat, and tears, and you honor the pain with your professionalism. And that's the type of thing that I come from. I was raised that way. Scholarship don't come easy. So today it's easy to go to a gadget and press some buttons and numbers and be like, I could do that. But man, like I said, the closer you get to it, you recognize the work put in, the scholarship, and the fact that everything ain't for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the evolution of hip hop and things not being for everybody, I just remember when Yo Bum Rush the Show came out. That just changed the landscape of music.
Mm-hmm.
And it just echoed in my ear when Flav said, my man Chucky D, that boy swear he nice. Man, the boy don't swear he nice. He knows he's nice. You know what I'm saying? So Chuck, I got a feeling you're turning into a public enemy, man. So can you talk to me about the formation of the historic group Public Enemy?
Yeah, it was Yo Bum Rush the Show, which coincidentally they named Yo MTV Raps off of, because actually we was like the first influencers of Yo MTV Raps overseas. That's where the show started. And Yo Bum Rush the Show was an influential record everywhere else in the world in our beginnings. And it was slow to climb in the USA, although some places got it. Places with car culture. Long Island is car culture. Me and Flavor used to drive the U-Haul trucks and other trucks delivering furniture for my pops. Wow. As a part-time gig or whatever. So we would actually be in the cab of the U-Haul, or either he driving or I driving, talking about what we did. We come from a collective, Jalen. We're in Spectrum City, Hank Shockley, Keith Shockley, who you remind me of a whole lot. Flavor, myself, Bill Stepney, who I met in college, who started W.B.A.U. We come from a big collective. It was the collective before people actually saw Wu-Tang Clan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
So we was a collective from Long Island, outside of the 5 boroughs. And so Long Island is 100 miles long, 28 miles wide, full of everything that's getting New York and actually going to go at New York. So we come from that collective, and Yo Bum Rush the Show was actually like, we're going to invade the music business. You know, like what it is, Jalen, you got a gig going on or an event, and you with your homies, right? And there's 20 of y'all that can't get in. All you need is a toe in the door.
Correct. Bum Rush the Show.
Exactly. And you disperse. And the crazy thing is that we were in promotion, so we understood that from the other end too, how to secure against that. That's where the security of the first world came in. Because we used to have the thing on the radio. We used to throw events. Also, we had the security of the first world. Also, we knew the thugs out there on Long Island, the 98 party, who were, it was different from Brooklyn and Queens. These cats actually would build cars, 98s, Oldsmobile Delta 88s.
Yeah, my 98 Oldsmobile.
Yeah, they were a gang. They were a car gang, man. It was like 12. You see 12 98s and Delta 88s coming at. And the thing is, was crazy back then. We used to put cars together.
Wow.
Like, I had a Le Mans, man. Transmission went bad. I took a stick, went to on a hot day, put it in the tar and tarred my transmission from leaking. That's how crazy we were all. Because in Long Island, man, there's no mass transit, especially back then, man. And no car, you stuck. Same thing like in Detroit. You ain't wheeling around, man. You stuck in the place. So
correct.
Our music permeated and talked about car culture, and just the thing how hip hop rotated around that. Run DMC came close because they the next borough over. That's why Queens Cadillac was their thing. Cadillac, DMC,
right.
The Cadillac,
I drive a Caddy, you fixing a Ford.
Exactly. Which my grandfather in Detroit worked for both companies.
How about, when did you realize that your voice was one that became so prominent that we look to you for knowledge, wisdom, and information? Like, it was one thing the way you guys entertained us, and I've seen so many of you guys shows with you, Flav, and the S1Ws, the discipline, the organization, the intellect, the professionalism, but also the historic bars that were teaching us about ourselves and teaching us about society and the culture. And in particular, that played out on an album, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back.
Well, that's simple. We were slightly older. I'm born in 1960, Hank 58, Flavor 59, so we from that era. So we remember when there was a Dr. Martin Luther King on the radio. We don't remember Dr. King as a person that got shot only, and then we figured out how to pick up the pieces. We remember Malcolm X living, you know what I'm saying? Hearing small things as a child, man, seeing things on TV. We remember the Vietnam War, like I told you when we were sitting down, Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos was a real thing with my uncles being drafted into Vietnam after high school. I mean, what we delivered, and it takes a nation of millions to hold us back, is some real stories from a real time that I guess the next generations were born after. Like those that were born in the 70s, they came after the 60s. We experienced the 60s. How could we bring it across and rap in the 80s? I mean, one time we were hanging a flyer, me and Hank, and promoting Hank Shockley promoting the party, and we hung up a flyer with Malcolm X, and this young cat said, "Who is Malcolm the 10th?" And we said, "We got things to work on." He said, he thought he was Malcolm the 10th. The Roman numeral, the X was a Roman numeral. So we used to do things, man, to say, okay, listen, I mean, if we 6, 7 years older than the kids out, we throwing parties, or we should give them something, up here. And that really, I mean, it made Long Island a center point for a while. I mean, it was a center point for such a long time, is that I felt bad being part of Public Enemy because I knew we had to take it around the world. But what we were doing locally was like world changing. And like I grew up down the street from Eddie and Charlie Murphy. Dr. J grew up in our hometown. Bill Stepney, Dr. Dre, Andre Brown, Yo MTV Raps, Who's the Man? He one of us, Harry Allen, man, we all in the same classroom in the Delphi. Delphi was a center point where everybody in Nassau County came to. I mean, in Detroit, there's always that college, like people would go up to Wayne State and just, the black, party night and stuff like that. Delphi was the same thing for us.
Wow, that's crazy. And also, I'm about to introduce a few things that people may not realize, that your fingerprints and Public Enemy's fingerprints were game-changing in different arenas. So I want to talk about Spike Lee and the classic movie Do the Right Thing. You guys' video and soundtrack for Fight the Power became so very legendary as a visual for that movie, that not only helped continue the greatness of Spike Lee's movie career, but also Spike Lee helped launch Michael Jordan's historic Air Jordan shoe through that movie. Can you remind people of those times of Do the Right Thing, Fight the Power video, and remembering how Spike Lee and Public Enemy played a major role in the popularity of the Air Jordan shoe?
Yeah, I mean, quite quickly, man. Back in the day, sneakers were sneakers. The pros wore them. Converse was the one that, hey, Dr. J had the Converse. Hey, hey, where you get those moves? And then later on, Bird and Magic, they wore Converses. So, and Nike comes along and they a track shoe, because I ran track. So I remember Nike was a track shoe. But the Air Jordans was just like another great ball player wearing another shoe. Was it street gear? I mean, Adidas, once Run DMC did Adidas. That was a hip-hop shoe. But Spike Lee takes the basketball prowess of Michael Jordan and teams him up with this Brooklyn night called Mars Blackman. Mars Blackman is a b-boy out of Brooklyn. And the movie, the black movie that She's Gotta Have It comes out, Mars Blackman is a key figure. You throw hip-hop, b-boy, Brooklyn, Mike Jordan's game, the long shorts, you throw all that into a pot, and what do you get? You get credibility by default. And Mike had to do is keep on being Mike, right? I mean, Mike Jordan kind of popularized the bald head, Even though Kareem had did it first. But I'm just saying is that all those things in pop, Spike Lee was making movies back when black folks wasn't making movies for a while or that level keying out to everybody. You remember back in the day with Spike Lee do a movie, everybody gonna go.
No
everybody,
doubt.
You know what I'm saying? From Denzel to Wesley to whoever, you know, Lynette McKee and whatever, they're gonna honor Spike. Spike made those inroads. So long story short, 1989, after he had School Days in '88, he says, "Listen, man, I'm gonna cop on this thing that's going on about the unrest in New York City. All these communities cheek to jaw with each other, but yet and still some getting service better than others. We got to talk on that." And Black Talk Radio was the main thing in New York because it communicated to everybody. That's why in Do the Right Thing, you got Samuel L. Jackson. He's like the DJ in the beginning because that's how we were connected. And the whole thing about the anthem, Spike said, "Listen, I want to tie this together with hip hop, but it got to be y'all because this is the level where this is at." And he just said, "I need an anthem." And it took us a while to come up with the anthem up to the title, Fight the Power. And it answered that. And even when people get into like, okay, yo, you talked about John Wayne and Elvis, not them specifically, but their whole American icon, they can't do nothing wrong. It's only that, nobody else. We answered to that because the biggest question Spike had in the movie was Giancarlo Esposito saying, "Yo, sir, how come there ain't no black folks on the wall?" And that's what that's what it's about. So, you know, it answered to that. And our thing is just like, how do we play the role with the momentum that's already popping? You know, and you know, just like everything is just like a sports game. You got to have people that know their role. You got to know their role and complement the momentum that's going that way. So our thing is like, we could provide soundtrack to what you got. I mean, who knew that Spike was going to put the song in there 80 times? I mean,
right, literally. And also something that changed the landscape of hip hop is when Ice Cube decided to leave N.W.A.
Yeah.
And that was clearly a pivotal moment in his career about what he was going to do next. And then all of a sudden he links up with you and the Bomb Squad, drops America's Most Wanted, one of the most classic albums in the history of hip hop. And he survived in a lot of ways what people thought was career suicide by leaving N.W.A. What do you remember about those days in that album?
We toured together. N.W.A. admired us as a posse as opposed to individuals. You see the N.W.A., the posse, they have a collection of groups. Matter of fact, they even wore clocks on the back dock of their cover.
Yep, they did.
And we toured together in 87, 88, had kinship. We were older than everybody else, Jalen, so everybody had looked at Public Enemy as mediators, cats that was just trying to bring everybody together for the spirit of hip-hop, whether you was, you know, Jazzy Jeff or Fresh Prince or you were King T. We were like, all right, listen, let's sit down. It's all of us together, man. This is all of us against the world to prove that we are legitimate music. So we struck up a kinship, and when Cube had some issues with his situation, I encouraged him. I said, well, figure out how to work it out because it's important. Your statements are important, and you're a key writer and one of the great MCs, man. And the West needs you, you know. And they couldn't work it out. I said, well, there's a civil way of going about this. And therefore, the Bomb Squad took on America's Most Wanted when we had the time. I think the Bomb Squad was doing Belle Biv DeVoe's album, Via Planet, and then America's Most Wanted, incorporating people like Sir Jinx. And, and Eric Vietnam Sadler and Sir Jinx had a kinship. So it's all about working together, Jalen. We all in this thing together, man. Even when you do a show, I tell people it's not just your show. It's minute one to the closer. It's important that the closer check out the opener. And then, you know, we were the first group to actually come along and do that. And come up with a synergy. And so, yeah, when Cube did that and got through all the turbulence, it also showed that in a good and also in a bad way that soloists could also make it bigger than groups. And it was also, it made record companies look at, okay, it's easier to negotiate or renegotiate
Right.
with a person as opposed to a crew. I mean, they would look at people like X-Clan and they roll up into an office and say, we want this contract changed. And they looking at a room full of cats with unks and bones in their nose. They like, white folks are like, oh my God. They'd be like, well, if you're going to actually distribute rap music to black people in the world with a black face on it, you're going to have to deal with us in the contract room. So they found a way to use the solo thing in the favor of kind of like getting the heat off of their back or the black back for contractual situations. You see, that's already flipping and they don't know what to do in the NBA right about now. They want to say that inmates are running the asylum on the low.
Right. But it's still a salary cap.
Right. They blame Jalen Rose and all you Fab Five guys for all.
Exactly.
They can't remove that out of their heads, man. It's like, man, as soon as those guys came along, everything changed. Welcome to the Terradome.
No doubt, no doubt. And I appreciate the love. And as hip hop turns 50, I have to ask you, because you were one of the first artists and groups to actively expand hip hop around the world. You're still doing major shows with Prophets of Rage. Can you just acknowledge one of your favorite tours and some of the other artists that you performed with on one of your favorite tours of all time?
It's difficult. It's 116 tours, 116 countries over 38 years.
Wow. Wow.
I think on a big end, no, let's say on a small end, we did a Hip Hop Gods tour in 2012. We traveled on 2 buses and we went to parts that people never went, and we hooked up a review. So the Hip Hop Gods review with your city mate, Awesome Dre, X-Clan, Righteous Teachers, Wise Intelligent, Schoolie D, Moni, and we did the big thing in a very small, quaint review type of thing and performed together. And that was special because we went to small places. We would go to a place like Lincoln, Nebraska, and people would look at Schoolie D and say, I never thought I would see you in my real life, yo. I also would say that on a big scale, I mean, wow. Damn tour the first year, LL Cool J, Houdini, Dougie Fresh, Bia Rakim, Public Enemy, Stetson Sonic. We shared the same bus. Out of that bus that we shared in 1987, it was us and Stetson Sonic, 13 people on a 10-sleeper bus, right?
Wow.
And the bus broke down. I mean, every time we go to Nashville, we got to get the bus fixed because that's where the buses came from at that time, Nashville. And today they come out of Florida. But out of that bus was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, In Full Gear by Stetson Sonic, and then the proteges from the DJ of Stetson Sonic, De La Soul with. Out of that bus summer, 3 albums came out of that bus summer with us building, connecting, climbing. You know, we getting 10 minutes, Stet's getting 6 minutes. You know, we coming as rookies, man. So out of that comes 3 great albums, 3 of the greatest albums of all time. And I remember actually on that bus trying to figure out all summer long, man, how do I write this song, Bring the Noise? Because Bring the Noise is in the last lyric of Rebel Without a Pause. Bring the noise, my time, step aside for the Flex Terminator X. So I wrote Bring the Noise later. Oh, I was trying to write it, but I already recorded Don't Believe the Hype, but we put it in the can because it was low for that year. And at that time, we put it in the can because that was going to be the soundtrack to Less Than Zero. And then when we did Bring the Noise and I went overseas, it percolated in the States. I was like, oh, damn, that one?
Right.
But Don't Believe the Hype was in the can, and then we brought that out the next year as a lead single for Takes a Nation.
How
Good.
about this? Can you acknowledge for me your top 5 albums? Like when you look back at the history of rap music, and it doesn't have to be a particular order, but just like 5 albums that you feel like really embody 50 years of hip hop.
Well, I got Rap Station. People could go to rapstation.com and see our internet work. We have charts. We chart songs. The Bring the Noise app, which is people go to bringthenoiseapp.com, which is the first cultural media app ever. It does what Instagram and TikTok does, 35 and up. We tell people. And Rap Station been going on for like 25 years, but really 14 years as a radio internet network. So we always make charts. Charts are like live in my head. I got 5 libraries. But if I had to say, Raising Hell is my all-time favorite album of all time by Run DMC because it showed that hip-hop is an album-oriented group, album-oriented art, and not just singles. Before Raising Hell, it was just singles, only singles. So when we signed with Def Jam, we had to deliver an album. So we had to think of ourselves like Rolling Stones and Metallica, as opposed to just delivering singles, because it's like an album is a whole environment, front to back, do's, don'ts, cans, can'ts, makes you feel good sometimes. But on the album, there's got to be cuts on there and make you stare at, like, I don't like that one.
Right.
And then it grow on you, be like, I end up loving that one. That's how Funkadelic used to get me. Hey, listen, Jalen, the first time I ever heard Flashlight, we were going to school, and Terminator X brother, who I went to school with, had this gigantic box, and he was playing Flashlight, and it was raining, and he had a plastic bag over it. And I said, what's that? That's Parliament, George Clinton. And that first thing in my mind was like, I don't even understand that, man. I just, I'm used to tear the roof off the mall, tear the roof off,
yeah.
But it was so crazy. And then that record grew on me. It grew on me to the point like, oh. And then 2 months later, man, I was a fiend for it, man. And to this day, I know every second of Paul. I get it, which told me like, when you're making an album and you're making songs, sometimes you hold to your art. Don't always get on your knees and aim to please. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know who you are, man. It's like once you go to the mirror, you don't have to ask nobody how you look. You know how you look. You know who you are.
No doubt.
Who you are is mostly a big thing we need to encourage all people, all human beings. Know who you are. Hey, listen, William DeVaughn, 1974. Be thankful for what you got.
No doubt.
Other albums. First time I heard Paid in Full, I was like, man, I've already Eric B. Right. They listen, Jay. You know how it is. We rivals, right?
No doubt.
We rivals. We going on stage. We trying to sit you down. We trying to take you out too, right? And they with us. Trust me. They they got a year on us, as with Boogie Down Production. So we coming in, right? And we got a little bit of momentum. And just when we think we could get Eric and Ra, they come out with I Know You Got Soul.
Ooh, you got it. You got it.
And I was so happy and mad at the same time. We went to the lab. Hank came to my house, said, yo, man, let's go to Roosevelt Park, play some ball, get it off your head, get off your shoulders, man. I slammed the door on him, man. I stayed in, went over back and forth this tape. My mom is like, what's this tea kettle thing you keep playing back and forth? I said, it ain't a tea kettle. I come out of the crib 2 days later with Rebel Without a Pause.
Ooh.
We cut it. We cut it the next week. The first time I cut it, when you cut it, you like, people like, yeah, it's good, but you like, man, something missing. I come back 2 days later. I said, if we got that on tape, we could die tomorrow, man, and it's gonna already have its life. It's like those type of things, man. That back then, because you worked with collectives, the rivalry was love and it was real, man.
No doubt.
Because if you had a bad night, you know, your crew would follow up and pick up, you know, and that's how it was. And it was a beautiful thing, man. You know, people talk about Will Smith, like, they don't get it. You know, Will Smith, aka Fresh Prince, one of the most rhymingest MFs I ever seen, to the point you have to say, yo, shut the F up, dog. Stop. They don't even know, man. This dude rhymed for a day. And then his DJ,
Jazzy.
I mean, today it's like it's high. It's like you look back, but when these cats were innovating, creating something out of nothing, you were awestruck because you was like, how could that be? I mean, first time I ever heard of that record, I was like, oh, okay. Because before that, the biggest question was like, how you gonna put rap on a record? Era. And when they finally did, it was like, I was rhyming at a college, rapping over good times, and I hear sounds come behind me, and I was like, oh, and they finally did it. Rappers are like 15 minutes long. Wow. So, you know, everything, a top 5, when I first heard Curtis Blow, first heard Wu-Tang, when I first heard Jazz and Jay-Z, Jazz, on seeing him the other day, man, at the Hip Hop Universal Museum. Yo, Missy Elliott, Buster. When I named Buster, he was Taheem. I was like, listen, man, this dude Buster Rhymes, if I could take this football player's name and be him,
no doubt.
I was already knee deep in rhyming already. I had a little bit of a name, but I said, if I could start all over again, I'd take this name. Bro, you should take this name. But like I said, like I tell you, not everything that's great make you smile and make you be like, ooh, ooh. He looked at me with the side-eyed, with the screw face, like, what's the what? Come on, dog. Really? Hey, take this, man. It's almost like, take this whatever pill. It'll be good for you. So, yeah.
No doubt.
The top 5, I mean, it's one in many, but my favorite all time is Raising Hell by Run DMC and Jam Master Jay. I
love that. I love that answer.
I toured with them. I played with them. I seen them do that show, that album live. I just to this day, man. I was taking a trip not too long ago, man, and for the first time in a long time, I played that album on a long trip, and I was just like shaking my head in tears, man.
No doubt. And then and then they even changed the game when he was like, hit it, Ron. He's like, I'm a beatbox too. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go into my Dougie. I'm going to go into my human beatbox.
Our goal back in the day was to make that arena fall down and collapse before y'all got back into it during the season.
Correct. Correct.
I see Run and DMC and Jay hit it run down so bad at the Houston Summit.
Ooh.
I ain't got no words for it, dog. I just seen everything and everybody over. If I had to say one moment and somebody else, I think me and Eric B were side by side looking at it from the side. And we were looking at each other as they were doing Hit It Run and the Summit was upside down, dog.
Wow.
Eric elbowed me and said, them got hits.
No doubt.
Oh,
the legendary Run DMC. And I got the iconic Chuck D.
Before I go, in your city, they made a whole city in '84 wear them hats and Adidas and tracksuits. The whole Cobo Hall. I never seen nothing like that before.
I was there. I took the Finkel bus with my homeboys back. My mom piled us in her Dodge Omni and took a few of us downtown. And Detroit was all Adidas, no shoestrings in them, Adidas suit, creases in our hats, all of that. Like they literally owe them so many royalties. They should have a piece of the company.
I try to tell you.
Like for real. That's the beauty of hip hop.
Exactly. Listen, we talking about it to bring truth to light right now in 2023 in August, man, and talk about those moments. I mean, you can't beat that with a baseball bat. I mean, it's right here, right now. So thank you.
No doubt. And I appreciate you taking the time. But before I let you get out of here, I got a rapid fire segment, Chuck D, called Gone in 60 Seconds. You ready to do this?
Ready, set, go.
Presented by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers. Of the many album covers you've released solo and with Public Enemy, which one are you most proud of?
Album, Fear of a Black Planet with the Eclipsing Planet, done by B.E. Johnson from NASA, and the single Hazy Shade of Criminal, where show the hanging of two black men in Marion, Indiana in the 30s. And both of those, that record was banned from a lot of stores because it was so truthful.
Wow.
But we wanted to let people know it's like we're not starting something, we're ending something.
Wow, that's a crazy answer. And you talked about your love of sports and wanted to be a sportscaster. Can you acknowledge for me your favorite New York sports icon of all time?
Player or announcer?
Player.
Well, the longevity factor got Clyde Frazier. And I grew up as a Willis Reed fan, but Clyde Frazier is right there. So to me, because Clyde is a fixture in our life as a ball player, a stylist, a linguist, and now a broadcaster, he's Mr. New York, straight out of Atlanta, Georgia, but he's Mr. New York, man, before, I mean, he's like the rapper's icon in ball, man, and he knows it.
No doubt. Embodies cool. One of the reasons why I wear a goatee. And as a matter of fact, the headline, and rightfully so, is that Willis Reed performed after he was injured in the way he ran out of the tunnel. But the actual story to that game people don't really know is Clyde Frazier had 30 and 20.
36 points, 19 assists, I think seven steals or something like that. 36 and 19.
How about this one for you, legend?
Listen,
which artist? West. Go ahead.
Jerry West.
Jerry West, yeah, he was killing them.
Jerry West. And Jerry West, people don't even know, man. Jerry West is unstoppable, man.
Without the three-point shot.
Without the three-point shot.
Shooting from range. It's a reason why he the logo. Don't get it twisted.
I know. It's a reason. I get the, when they wanted to replace it with MJ, but MJ got Jordan. MJ got Jordan and Nike. Leave it there. The NBA, there's a reason Jerry West is that dude, man. So,
no question. Which artist of today do you think represents the future of the rap genre?
Probably a woman.
And
probably Sampa the Great out of Africa. If I wanted to name somebody and really give cats the facts, Sampa the Great is probably the future. Lil Sims out of the UK. Sampa the Great is from not Zambia, but she could speak all kinds of different languages. She a woman. Women in hip hop are 33% in the world, are 33% of hip hop in the world. So,
that.
As far as like bringing it down to contemporary, what we see around, there's always, there's so many coming out. But I think somebody that can spit different languages, that's like somebody with a handle that could go to both hands, shoot the tray, dunk.
Yep.
Like the Wemby of rap is probably going to be somebody who's multilingual and stuff like that. But, you got people out there, I always name them, like Substantial is dope out of DMV as an indie artist. I like, as far as OGs, the new OGs, Fat Joe is a new OG who's like really seriously, he's a conductor of somebody that people trust and they come to for the old word. And I know him as the YG, but he's an OG right now, you know, and he
Okay.
is, and what Nas is doing is just they do
Yes.
OG work. And then you got GOAT, LL Cool J. So this past weekend, you had Nas and his mass appeal at Yankee Stadium. You had LL Cool J last week with Rock the Bells.
Oh.
And then you had, you know, like KRS One, you know, at Sedgwick, 1520 Sedgwick. So a lot of cats is doing OG work, you know, and then women in hip hop. This is the year that Missy Elliott goes into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we'll be there saluting, representing, and we'll be there in full support.
Always a wealth of knowledge, and you're like a human being that seemingly never sleeps. You narrate a podcast, can you dig it? You got an art book, Living Loud. You have a docu-series, Fight the Power. So I have to ask, what's next for Chuck D?
I think the Bring the Noise app is probably the thing that's probably making the biggest inroad because it makes all the vehicles run. And like I said, I'm very clear on what I don't do, Jay. It's these all in lines of their artistic expressions, and they're all in line to make sense of what I do. It's no time soon you'll see me trying to, like, you know, be the starting right fielder for the Yankees, and I'll be. I should say the Mets. I end this on closing, man. You know, I'm as being the Major League Baseball ambassador for culture is very important because we're going to try to figure out a game that's so close to my heart, a game that I once seen in Tiger Stadium in your town. Yep. We've gone into an individual thing, and baseball's the thing that you can't play one-on-one. You got to get together. So there's things culturally we can do with bringing the game closer, adding some things to it, bringing it back into the vision of our neighborhoods and stuff like that, but bringing music to it and being the theme and the soundtrack of it. And I don't take that role lightly. Another thing is to let people know. The other day I said, like, when I was on the stage the other day, 1520, I said, like, kind of F Yankee Stadium because of the event. It wasn't because of the event. I was talking about the municipality of it, because the biggest statement I'm making is Free Kid Creole from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I thought that it was a one-sided case, having them serve 16 years for what, essentially from the outside looking in, as a manslaughter charge for self-defense because he was accosted in the streets going home from work.
Right.
So, I mean, and he didn't have the legal support. You know, in this country, it's about having legal support or money to support you, and he didn't have it. So I'm actually a president of the Hip Hop Alliance, hip hop's first union, started by Curtis Blow, Harris One, MC Light, and we're trying to make, you know, hip hop 50 years be accountable and responsible and be grown, man. Simple as that, man.
Well, you're a legend. You're an icon. I idolize you. I love and appreciate you, my brother. Can't wait for us to break bread again soon. And I'm forever grateful that you took the time to join me today. That's Chuck D, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Speaking to an equal legend and influence that permeates to this very second of what you put out there.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.